Good morning.
Good morning.
This morning I'd like to talk on two paragraphs on page 106 of this text, opening the hand of thought. Excuse me. Let me read these two paragraphs. Moreover, the second paragraph of page 146. Moreover, it is of utmost importance here not to indulge in self-observation. Self-observation or observing the effect of our zazen, such as being calmer or more agitated, not only misses the mark, but the moment we do so, we impair zazen and go off the track. Zazen has nothing to do with thinking about results. It is essential just to aim at the posture of zazen without trying to observe its effect. Next paragraph. You may feel that being able to observe the effect of your zazen will lead to tremendous dissatisfaction. It is only natural to feel this, for zazen throws out our petty thoughts that seek satisfaction and manifest life purely as life. The feeling that something is lacking is no more than our petty thoughts of being unfulfilled. Sawaki Roshi used to say, there is no reason to expect the reality of immeasurable and unbounded life to satisfy your puny little thoughts. He has been talking about zazen first, and he said zazen is not sleeping or thinking. And he, in these two paragraphs, he said there are another important point, that is no self-observation. And this can be both in zazen, during zazen, and not only zazen, but even after we stand up and go out and thinking. Basically, in these two paragraphs, he's talking about not do self-observation during zazen. But the final sayings by Sawaki Roshi is not only about during zazen. It's simple, because when we, during zazen, we observe our zazen and say, now, because of this zazen, I become more, quiet or calm down, or even though I sit so much, it doesn't make any change. If we do such an observation, then this observation and evaluation and thinking is a part of thinking in our zazen. So it's a part of thinking during zazen. So it's very natural, matter of course. It includes thinking. So I don't think I have to explain or talk about self-observation during zazen. It's something like, that kind of observation and thinking about whether we change it or not, whether this doesn't make some change in my life or not. That kind of self-observation during zazen is, when we are sitting, our brain is still working, and our brain is subject, and those thought coming and going is the object, and we interact with those thinking coming and going. But when we observe our zazen and think about the result or effect, whether this doesn't work to me or not, then even though we are sitting, this sitting becomes a object of this person's thinking. So within zazen, we think about zazen. This is same as expanding dream within dream, as a structure. And in this case, it's different from Fat Dogen's road in that fascicle of Shobogenzo, but this is totally fantasy. So it's very clear. This is not when we do such a thing. In Okumura Roshi's expression, we impair zazen. We impair makes sense? Injure or destroy or damage our zazen. And when we do such a thing, this sitting is not zazen. It's a thinking about zazen. So I don't think I need to talk about this first paragraph. And Fat Okumura Roshi saying in the second paragraph is, if we cannot do this, we cannot evaluate our zazen, it must be very unsatisfactory, because we have some expectation. Otherwise, we cannot find any motivation to, sit, to practice zazen, because zazen is not so easy thing, especially during your busy lives. To take 1 hour or several hours or a few days or 5 days for session is not so easy thing. And sitting itself is not so easy physically and mentally. So when we decide to practice this sitting, I think we almost always have some expectation, or we have some question or problems or difficulty in our daily lives, in order to find something that might help us to go through that difficulty, or find the exit for the better life. I think that is our motivation to practice. But Sawaki Roshi and Okumura Roshi is saying we cannot make such evaluation about zazen. So this is very unsatisfied or dissatisfied practice. That means we cannot find any satisfaction. If we practice zazen in order to fulfill our desire for satisfaction, then we miss the point. That is another meaning of Sawaki Roshi's zazen is good for nothing. We should not have any expectation. That means we cannot have or expect any satisfaction. So it's really natural. We always have a kind of a frustration. Why I have to do this? So let me start to talk from the second paragraph. You may feel that being unable to observe the effect of your zazen will lead to tremendous dissatisfaction. It is only natural to feel this, for zazen throws out our petty thought that seeks satisfaction and manifests life purely as life. So for Sawaki Roshi and Okumura Roshi, the point of this zazen is to throw out our petty thought that seeks satisfaction. So if we seek satisfaction during zazen or by doing zazen, then we do this for satisfy this, petty thinking that seeks satisfaction. So if we practice with such an attitude, then we completely miss the point of zazen. So he said, it is very natural we feel unsatisfaction or dissatisfaction. Then why we have to practice this? And what Okumura said, our zazen is throw out petty thought that seeks satisfaction. So that means we don't seek satisfaction. But he said, and manifest life purely as life. So this is another side of practice without seeking satisfaction. While we practice without such expectation, put aside our desire for satisfaction, then within our zazen, which is very satisfactory, the life manifests through this body and mind. The life larger than this petty thought or petty, this is a kind of a translation problem. He said, 小さな自分の思い。小さな means small, and 自分 is self or me or I, and 思い is thought. And in this translation, this small or petty modify the thought, petty thought of this person. But possibly, what Okumura meant, small self, the thought of small self, petty self. Small self means this karmic self as an individual, limited within these five skandhas. That means this self is a product, as I always say, this I is a production of five skandhas. And this I need satisfaction or seek satisfaction. But this person, or these five skandhas, this is five skandhas, including this thinking mind. These five skandhas are not limited within this small person. But this five skandhas has a connection with entire universe, as I always say. And when we seek satisfaction based on this I's desire, then this practice is a kind of an attempt to satisfy this I, or to make a kind of improvement or something beneficial or desirable to this I. And what Sawaki Roshi and Okumura Roshi is saying is that is not zazen. Zazen or Buddha Dharma is not something which satisfies this I. So he said it is natural. This I cannot find any satisfaction in this zazen. And finally, Okumura Roshi quotes Sawaki Roshi saying, there is no reason to expect the reality of immeasurable and unbounded life to satisfy your puny little thought, or your thought, the thought of this tiny small self. So he's talking about this life, or this dharma of interconnectedness with all beings. We are sitting within this interconnectedness, and we can sit or we can live because of the support of all beings. But this small person want to satisfaction only this person, and to feel being satisfied, I need something good to me, some good, satisfying or desirable result. Or we feel I sit, because of my sitting, this I become better than others. Or this doesn't make our life more comfortable or meaningful or powerful than others. That kind of goal or something desirable. If we practice Zazen for that kind of satisfaction for this I, then we completely miss this Dharma, immeasurable. There's no way this small person can measure the boundless, infinite interconnectedness. So our Zazen is not a practice to seek satisfaction for this I, but our Zazen is more like open these 5 skandhas toward this entire network of interdependent origination. That's why another, I think part of this book, Okumura Roshi said, our Zazen is offering. It's not our activity to gain something, but we offer these 5 skandhas to this network of interdependent origination, and we become one with this network. So there's no way to observe it because we are part of it. You know, I often talk about Sushi's poem about Mount Ru. We cannot see the true face of Mount Ru exactly because we are part of it. Because we are in the mountain, we have to take a position within this mountain, and depending upon the position, the shape of mountain different. So we cannot tell what is the true face of this mountain. So it's very unsatisfactory. And yet to see or to awake the truth or reality that we are part of the mountain is the point of our Zazen. We just be the part of the mountain. We just be the part of this interconnectedness. And when we feel during our Zazen, if we feel now I am part of the mountain, then we are already out of it. That's a problem. So that is fact which I was meant, no observation, no self-observation, or no evaluation. We cannot judge whether this Zazen is good Zazen or not. But in whatever situation or condition of 5 skandhas, we try to keep upright posture and not sleep, keep our eyes open and letting go of whatever coming and going without evaluation. So this is the meaning of not doing a self-observation during the Zen. But the Sakiroshi's saying, Okumura Roshi quote, was very important for Okumura Roshi himself. I mean, this was almost the pivotal point of Okumura Roshi's practice. I often talk about his first book, Okumura Roshi's first book, Jiko, and this is a collection of several independent essays by Okumura Roshi, while Sakiro Roshi was still alive. And two places in this book he quoted this saying, and he said this is almost like a decisive or pivotal point of his practice. This means, in the first essay in this book, he wrote about his process or journey of seeking the way from when he was a teenager. But anyway, he became a monk or a Buddhist monk when he was around 30. But he wanted to find the truth or reality when he was a teenager, and to find, even though he had a desire to find the truth and live based on that truth, he didn't know what is truth. So he went to university and studied Western philosophy. And he finished graduate school and became a teacher at a Catholic seminary. But somehow he couldn't find the answer he was looking for. Not only this process of searching the truth, but during this period he had really painful experiences. He married in his early 20s, and his first wife died with tuberculosis, TB. And Okumura Roshi transmitted TB from his first wife. And after he quit the job at the Catholic seminary, he married again. And his second wife also died within a few days while she was pregnant. So it was a really painful experience. And yet he hadn't yet found what he was looking for. And this painful experience made him to make decision to become a Buddhist monk and practice, instead of just reading books and thinking as a philosopher. So he found that he had changed himself. Truth is not something objective and written in the book, or something he could think of, but he has to practice, actually do it. And that was when he was about 30 years old. When he expressed his desire to become a Buddhist monk or Zen monk, his father helped him to find a good teacher, and that was Sakiro Roshi. At that time, Sakiro Roshi was a Godo, or the teacher at the Sojiji monastery. So Okumura Roshi participated the kind of a retreat led by Sakiro Roshi at Sojiji. And Okumura Roshi found his teaching, Sakiro Roshi's teaching, was what he had been looking for. So he made decision to become his Sakiro Roshi's disciple. And at that time, he took a note of Sakiro Roshi's lectures about Zazen, and he summarized the point of Sakiro Roshi's teaching about Zazen, and he found there are 5 important points. And Okumura Roshi talked about those 5 important points of Zazen in circular teaching. And his talk about those 5 points, his means Okumura Roshi talk about those 5 points appeared in Zen teaching of Homeless Kodo. So if you want, you can read it. Anyway, so first 4 is a kind of a virtue of Zazen. Like when we, in our Zazen, we become transparent self, or become one with all beings, and so on. But the 5th one, according to Okumura Roshi's note, Zazen is good for nothing. And so from the very beginning, Okumura Roshi knew that it is good for nothing, at least in circular teaching. And shortly after he was ordained by Sawaki Roshi, he had a chance to work together with Sawaki Roshi. And Okumura Roshi kind of make sure if that was true. So Okumura Roshi was about 30 years old. And until then, what he did was reading books and thinking. So he was very physically weak, very intellectual person. So his question was, if I practice with his question to Sawaki Roshi. Sawaki Roshi was very physically strong and mentally tough person, typical Zen teacher. So Okumura Roshi's question was, if I practice with you rest of my life or until you died, it is possible I become even a little bit like you. Mm-hmm. And Sawaki said, no, that is good for nothing. I'm not like this because of Zazen practice. But he said, I was like this even before I started to practice. So Okumura makes sure in circular teaching that is good for nothing. When he started to practice with circular, but this became a serious problem for Okumura Roshi. I mean, he was ordained in 1941, December 8th. As you know, December 8th is Buddha's Enlightenment Day, but not only that, this day is a Pearl Harbor Day. In this country, Pearl Harbor Day is 7th, but in Japan it was already 8th. So when Okumura Roshi was ordained, the Second World War started. But anyway, until I think 44, Okumura Roshi and other disciples of Sawaki Roshi practiced at a temple named Daichuji. Not a big sangha, but probably 5, 6, or 7 disciples practiced together in this big and old temple. Sawaki Roshi borrowed this temple for his student practice. And Sawaki Roshi visited this temple once a month to read sesshin. So they had a sesshin with Sawaki Roshi for 5 days or 7 days, I'm not sure. But they had another sesshin without Sawaki Roshi. So that means without lecture or without anything, but really sitting literally 24 hours. In the beginning, they start to sit at 2 in the morning, and they had 3 meals, but having meals, eating is also in this posture. So it's not, so they kept sitting. And after each meals, they had very short break. But they sit in this style until 12, I mean midnight. They just keep, repeating sitting 15 minutes and 10 minutes kinhin. And until midnight, someone was walking with Kyosaku. So if someone was sleeping, the person was hit. But during midnight to 2 in the morning, no, they didn't have Kyosaku, so they could sleep. But sleeping is also in this posture. So they literally sat, 24 hours. Anyway, Okumura Roshi practiced in that way for about 3 years. But 1944, because of the bombing by American Air Force in Tokyo, the school children in Tokyo had to evacuate. And those children came to this temple. So Sawaki Roshi's disciples had leave the temple, so they didn't have place to practice or even live together. So until 49, Okumura Roshi and the other disciples of Sawaki Roshi, the war in 45 had very difficult time. They had to moving around wherever they could stay. So this is as a situation of Japan in the society. It's really difficult time, and after the World War II, for a few years, Japanese people were starving. That was so. Externally, it was really difficult time, but not only outside the situation, but he had, according to his essay, he had difficulty within himself. That means he was really this kind of practice was really difficult, especially physically weak and a very intellectual person to sit so much. It was very difficult, but he felt a kind of satisfaction because before that he didn't do anything but thinking, but now he could do something using his body and mind altogether. So he found this is the practice, or this is the way, or this is the answer he was looking for. But after he left this temple, he started to see what Sawaki Roshi said was really true. That means he found he didn't change. Even after 3 years of such very strict Zazen practice, he found he didn't change. That means that he found Zazen is really good for nothing. And that was a problem. And that means he had at least some expectation, even though Sawaki Roshi said Zazen is good for nothing. If we practice this good for nothing, we can change it. We can have some, transformation. But he found even after such a strict practice for 3 years, he found he didn't change, and he didn't see other people had changed. So that became a very serious problem for him. And he had a question, this Zazen that taught by Sawaki Roshi, that is good for nothing, doesn't work to him. So he thought maybe I should practice Zazen in which we can expect some enlightenment experience. But somehow he couldn't change, and he couldn't stop practice with Sawaki Roshi. Anyway, so So not only externally but internally, he had a very serious difficulties within his Zazen practice. And a little before in 49, Okumura Roshi started to live at Antaiji. And after that, he lived at Antaiji for until he retired in 75. So he found a place to settle down. Anyway, before he moved to Antaiji, with this struggle and difficulties, even he practiced Zazen, he couldn't find any transformation within him. And when he asked a question to Okumura Roshi, Okumura Roshi said, "I said so from the beginning. What are you looking for?" So Zazen. So Okumura Roshi's teaching didn't help him. But he was really suffering about this point. Why I have to practice? And yet he found I couldn't stop doing this. And a little bit before he moved to Antaiji, he was really tired, both physically and mentally. And only thing he could was sitting quietly by himself. And he found, not found, but he felt, this might be rather than Okumura Roshi's teaching. That means he didn't have energy to complain or to think about it. He was too much tired, and he didn't find any energy even to seek the answer to this question or to do anything. So what he could do was really just sitting quietly. And at the time he felt this might be the Zazen Okumura Roshi was teaching. And after he moved to Antaiji, it said during a Rohatsu session, Okumura Roshi said this saying, the Buddha Dharma is immeasurable and boundless. There's no way, this boundless Dharma can satisfy for our desire for satisfaction. And Okumura Roshi wrote in his essay that was a pivotal point or turning point. And at that moment he found that until then, from when he was a teenager, the first time he wanted to find and live based on truth or reality. Until this moment, so he was about 40 years old, and before that he practiced Zazen almost 10 years. He found that his problem was this desire desire for satisfaction. So he wanted to quit it. He wanted to eliminate, or he wanted to be free from this desire for satisfaction. That was very basic motivation for him to study to practice. And because he was an intellectual person, he understood Zazen is itself practice being free from dissatisfaction. But he is still looking for something. He must be transformed. And when he heard Okumura Roshi saying, at that moment, he found until now he was still looking for satisfaction by being free from desire for satisfaction. Does this make sense? So first he wanted to be free from desire for satisfaction, and that he clearly said that was another form or manifestation of desire for satisfaction, and that was the basic motivation for him to practice, to continue to practice Zazen. But when Sakiros said this saying, this immeasurable and infinite boundless Dharma is not to satisfy this person's desire. So Uchamura said that was a pivotal point. He really found or become free from desire for satisfaction. That means to be content within this dissatisfaction. It's not possible to get this entire network of interdependent origination as my personal possession, and I feel now I become one with this, and desire for satisfaction is totally gone. There's no such thing happened. There's no way such things happened. As far as we are living as a part of this interconnectedness, we cannot control even ourselves. Or there's no way we can satisfy our desire for satisfaction by being free from desire for satisfaction. So this basic structure is like a expanding dream within dream. In a totally different meaning of the common usage of this expression. That means meaningless or kind of a fantasy within fantasy. But in Shobo Genzo Muchu Setsumu we studied during Genzoe, Dogen differ when he used the word dream within dream. The dream is this entire network of interdependent origination is a dream. And when, as a part of this dream, we awaken to that dream and express this dream. That is the way Dogen used this expression, expanding dream within dream. So there's no way, this small self can satisfy the desire, and that means that's okay. Our practice is not fulfill such a desire, even to become an enlightened person and become one with this network. Because we are, from the very beginning, we are part of it. We are born within this network, living together with all beings within this network, and we die within this network. So even when we are born, nothing is really added to this network. And even when we die, nothing is lost. So there's no way, and it's not necessary to satisfy this person's, this small person's desire for satisfaction. So after that, Uchamura's expression is being content within dissatisfaction. That means living peacefully without searching satisfaction. And he said that is possible. That means we don't need to worry about not taking place, not take action, following our desire for satisfaction. But in the case of Buddhist monk, just practice taught by Buddha or developed within this tradition. Just practice there. Within this practice, the Dharma, the universal or immeasurable Dharma or life manifests through this. Instead, even our mind, our small mind, is still looking for some satisfaction, like a baby crying. By taking care of this baby can be peaceful. But if we try to control the baby start to cry, and it's beyond our control. But when we take care of this kind of a baby, or something that is always complaining, always looking for something, but when we see, that is kind of an inner child, when we take care of this inner child, then we can be peaceful within dissatisfaction, without satisfied this desire. And I think this is a great discovery. But this doesn't make change. That transformation really happened in Okumura Roshi before and after Sakya Roshi is saying, kind of penetrate his body and mind. As a teaching, he knew what Sakya Roshi said at that point from the beginning. Even before he started to practice Zazen, he knew what Sakya Roshi said. And he's saying at this point, 10 years later, after he started to practice, is exactly the same thing. But during that 10 years, even he understood Sakya Roshi's teaching, he was still in trouble, in difficulties. And I think this is a very natural process. And in my experience, the same thing, not exactly the same, but kind of same thing happened. It took me also about 10 years, since I started Okumura Roshi's book. When I was 17, I knew that it is good for nothing, and I liked it. That's why I started to practice Zazen. And for about 10 years, I thought I practiced this good for nothing Zazen as Okumura Roshi and Sakya Roshi taught. But after 10 years, I found that was fantasy. I was, in a sense, in my case, I was satisfied because I practiced in this way. And around 30 years old, because I had physical difficulties, I couldn't practice in the way I was in my 20s. Then problem happened to me. That means I was satisfied because I was young and strong and healthy, and I practiced this good, strong, good for nothing Zazen. Therefore, I thought my life was okay. But when I found I couldn't, in that situation, I couldn't practice in that way, I felt my life was a failure. Or how can I say, I was lost. I was really felt I was literally good for nothing, not about the Dharma. And I started to think why this happened. Because I knew that it's good for nothing, why the problem if I couldn't do that? That was for me a pivotal point. And this struggle lasted about, I think about a few months after I went back to Kyoto from Massachusetts. I didn't know what I could do. But after a few months of that kind of struggle, one day I found myself sitting quietly. I couldn't struggle anymore because I lost any energy. So I had to surrender. Then in that sitting, I first felt, this is Zazen Fatu, Okumura Roshi, and Circulars taught. Good for nothing Zazen, that means we don't need to seek satisfaction. Just sitting. So this is really a very subtle transformation. But this subtle transformation makes a big difference in my life. And in this story, in Okumura Roshi's life. Anyway, I have no words.
After 11.
Oh, I'm sorry, I talk too much. But this not doing self-observation, I think is a really important point in Okumura Roshi's practice and also my practice. But so this teaching doesn't good for nothing is a kind of koan, because even we understand that we still have desire for satisfaction. So during when we start to practice, we have to face this problem. If we don't have this teaching as a koan, then we keep searching the satisfaction until we had some kind of dramatic experience. But that is not our practice. Okay, any comments or question? Please.
Could you say more about manifesting life as life? That's at the end of that section.
As Okumura Roshi said, even when we evaluate our life and also this world, we are thinking.
Right.
So this world becomes the object.
Okay.
But when we stop doing such a thing, then we become part of this. And we found we are living or existing as a part of this. So our activities is the way we express this interconnectedness. So we are part of this network or this cycle of movement.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so does it mean then that everything is just as it is?
And we are part of it.
And okay.
And when we see that, we found that even our desire for satisfaction is part of it. So we don't need to fight against it. But we found that we don't need to struggle to find a satisfaction for that desire.
Mm-hmm. So then, when we are acting as a subject and looking at everything else, including ourselves as an object, then really we're doing something
For
special.
Yeah.
And when we give that up, then we're seeing everything just as it is. Okay.
And we are part of it.
Okay. And I have another question.
Okay.
At one point you said our zazen is not to gain something for ourselves. It's more like an offering.
Yeah.
And so, does that mean it's an offering that would actually help someone or help?
Well, helping someone was some people is a part of this awakening, natural thing to do when we see we are together with all beings. But even when we cannot really help, depending upon our condition.
Right.
For example, Changroshi, someone asked the person who was in his deathbed. He was dying, so he couldn't do anything to help others. But Changroshi said, if the person don't complain about the situation, and he person in that situation can even offer a smile, then that smiling is a very great offering to the people who taken care of that person. So not complaining, only not complaining is a great offering, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Anything else? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.